We're speaking with Victor Gao, the director of the China National Association of International Studies. Victor, in the conference just now, you said China is very much in the middle. It doesn't like to take sides in global disputes. Is that position sustainable as China becomes already the second largest economy in the world, and perhaps very soon, certainly within our lifetimes, the largest economy in the world, and with that, arguably the greatest power in the world?
Well, in terms of international relations, China is a country of principles. One of these principles is non-interference in other countries' internal affairs. And this is not only China's fundamental principle. Many countries, for example, the non-aligned countries, have this as one of their fundamental foreign policy principles. And I think the beauty of this is that you do not take sides within any particular country, and you do not engage in internal politics, supporting one side against the other or supporting the rebel against the government. You do not introduce regime change. You do not enforce your value system onto other countries. I think in the world of today, this is still the correct principle. That is, sovereign countries have their internal affairs. Many countries enjoy peace and stability. Other countries have domestic strife. Some countries may even have civil war. But for outside countries to be very much involved in the internal affairs of these countries, altogether we have about 200 countries, it's a slippery slope. You do not know where to start and where to end.
So what is China's position when a country turns to China looking for leadership, asking Beijing, what do you think?
I think one leadership role is the advocacy of peace and stability. For example, for the last 35 years, there are two pillars for China's economic development and political reform. One is keep stability at home, and the other one is keep peace in the world. Now, this is a very good contribution to the peace and stability in the world. Why? Because if China loses the momentum of economic development, if China plunges into chaos, if China plunges into civil war, then you cannot talk about world peace and stability anymore, because China accounts for about 20% of the global population. On the other hand, I think if China keeps working on putting its own house in order and becomes a major force standing for peace and stability, not only for China, but for the whole world, we will have a better world. We will have greater peace and stability in the world. I think this is a major stabilizing fact. This is not giving up any responsibility or do not exercising leadership. This is leadership in the better term of the word.
Do you think that position will be sustainable, particularly in the Middle East and North Africa, or West Asia and North Africa, as you call it, as China imports more and more oil and gas from this region over the years ahead? China's own oil and gas resources are limited. Shale gas has huge potential, as yet unknown, but oil is definitely a fixture, and reliance on the Middle East is a fixture. Can China remain above it all in terms of the conflicts of the Middle East when it is becoming so dependent on the region for its oil supply?
As I mentioned in my speech, MENA, as we call it in China, WANA, West Asia and North Africa, is a very important region, not only for China, but probably for all the other major countries in the world. However, MENA or WANA is also one of the most complicated region in the world in terms of religious affiliation, in terms of ethnic complexity, in terms of ideology, in terms of oil trade, supply and demand. In any measure of the word, I would say this region is very complicated. And not only you have internal, intra-regional differences, you also have different fingerprints, interventions, interference or influences from major outside countries, legacies from the colonial period. And the region is divided into the Arab world versus the Israeli side of the equation, versus Iran, versus Turkey, And major countries, which were originally colonial powers in this region, the British, the French, the Italian, for example, or in more recent times, Soviet Union or Russia, and the United States, of course, the only surviving superpower in the world, they have their own interests in this part of the world. Therefore, I would say non-interference is the best strategy because the people in this part of the world need to give top priority to their own interest. They should not cave in to external interferences. They should not be held hostage by outside external considerations, and they be kept one way or another or held hostage one way or another. I think people in MENA or WANA need to really achieve a level of stability so that they are not held hostage by outside interference. That's number one. Number two is that for whatever internal differences, sectorial or ethnic, etc., it's always better to resolve the problems through peace and stability. In China's experience, our development over the past 35 years is based on, as I mentioned, keeping stability at home and maintaining peace in the world. And by keeping peace, it doesn't mean that...
Peace and stability, even if it costs the blood of your citizens.
Now, keeping peace doesn't mean you do not reform. People ask me, well, the Arab Spring happened. Do you think it will happen in China? My response is, if China has 30% unemployment rate among the youth, China would have had a revolution. And the fact that we don't have revolution, and I even went to the extent of writing a CNN op-ed called The End of Revolution, is because the government, the country, the people need to constantly pursue reform and opening up, etc.
And achieve economic growth.
And achieve economic growth, increase jobs. In China, on any typical year, we need to create about 10 million new jobs. That's a daunting task. And we are so busy at creating new jobs, growing the economy, engaging in massive amount of international trade with the rest of the world, including with MENA countries, etc. We don't have time for war or conflict or major confrontation, etc. So, summary.
You're too busy doing business, which is a very good note on which to end an oil and money interview.
Doing business and also maintaining peace and maintaining stability. That's the best contribution for a stable world to create greater wealth for the people of the world.